All right, we're going to turn now to Liz Cheney. Donald Trump did an event last night with Tucker Carlson, made some quote unquote eye-popping comments. We can debate what exactly he said, whether it even should be all that controversial. But Krystal, do you have it?
I do. Let me pull this up here. Here we go. This is getting a lot of attention on cable news and with Democrats in particular. So here, let's take a listen.
And Cheney was he said, I really want to thank you. He said, now I'm so glad that I actually endorsed you. It's amazing that you would do this. And I didn't speak to him about it. But then, go a couple of years forward or go now. And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter. But his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So whether it's her, whether it's Dick, I was surprised a little bit with Dick Cheney. I didn't know him at all. I only had essentially the 1 or 2 phone calls, and it was only a call saying, thank you very much for doing that for Scooter Libby. That was nice. And Scooter Libby, by the way, was beyond that. He couldn't believe that it happened. Nobody would do it. They should have done that for him years before. But I was a little surprised because I actually thought that Dick Cheney would go with me over his daughter, and he didn't. And you know what? I understand it. It's your daughter, and you go. But she's a bad person.
So to me, well, I'll let the rest of you guys react, but it's kind of wild to me that he was sad that he didn't get the Dick Cheney endorsement.
I was going to say, see, cable keeps talking about that. For me, I'm like, bro, we don't want the Dick Cheney endorsement. That's the whole point.
Like, Dick is way worse than Liz.
All right.
Way worse. Like, she's got the bad ideology.
Yeah.
He did the thing. Like, and you're still like, gosh, I wish Dick Cheney had endorsed me. It just shows you, to me. And then we can talk about the comments that, I think for reasons that are, not unreasonable, that got picked up on, where he was saying, let's see her with the guns pointed at her face or something like that. Yeah. But, it shows you all of this. The neocons are with Kamala and Trump is anti-war and whatever. None of this is ideological for him. He still loves Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo might be the Secretary of Defense. Tom Cotton might be the Secretary of Defense. He's still pining after the Dick Cheney endorsement. He campaigned with Liz Cheney last time he ran, and she supported him throughout his entire term in office. So for him, it's just all about, number one, like how sort of prestigious he thinks you are. So he thinks Dick Cheney, because he was vice president, he's well known, blah, 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 is prestigious, even though he's, like, to me, one of the most evil, most nefarious politicians we've ever had in American politics. But then number two, and most importantly, it's not about ideology. It's about, how do you feel about me personally? And did you come through for me personally when I needed and wanted you?
If you're looking for ideological coherence from Donald Trump and you're a Republican voter, I've got some bridges to sell you. In terms of the cable comments, so I will quote from Zach Beauchamp, who, can we all agree Zach Beauchamp is a major liberal Kamala Harris type figure. He says, folks, Trump did not threaten to execute Liz Cheney. He actually was calling her a chicken hawk, something liberals have said about her for ages. Look at the context. Trump is talking about giving her a weapon. Typically, people put in front of firing squads aren't armed. Trump does so many offensive things. He makes so many anti-democratic promises. It is counterproductive to get outraged about fake ones. That, and if you also combine Glenn Greenwald's long list there of all the chicken hawk comments that people have made throughout the 2000s about the Cheneys, that is one of the most sane things that Trump has actually said about Liz Cheney. So I'll leave it at that.
I think he's making a legitimate point, but it's somewhat amusing that he's making the point as they are saying that Kamala Harris calling him a fascist and a Nazi is incitement to another assassination attempt. So if we're playing this game, I mean, obviously we can't hold the political candidates to this.
Thank you for saying
question.
That. Emily, can you sound off on this? What did Mark Cuban say? Something about like stupid women. He was
Oh
like,
my
no
gosh, he
intelligent
said so
women
much.
support. But
Trump
okay.
had an all-time Hall of Fame level tweet at Mark.
Yes,
Cuban
I saw
yesterday.
that. Yeah, where he's like, he doesn't even have club speed. This is too where
slow club speed.
let's
Talking
call
about
out,
golf, right?
Yeah,
Oh
Republican snowflakes on this. They're like, I'm a strong woman and I support Trump. I'm like, you are just as much of a loser then as those pussy hat wearing liberals. If you're out there like, sorry, like, you know, like, do we reject identity stuff or not? Like, are we getting offended at things or not? And it's like the selective bias on this drives me crazy because they're like, Mark Cuban doesn't respect women because he said smart women don't surround themselves with Trump. And they're like, I'm a smart woman who works for Donald Trump. I'm like, that's like Hillary Clinton era, like bullshit. So anyway, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
Well, no, I mean, it's virtue signaling, right? Like, it's what's so insufferable about virtue signaling on the left is that there's a sanctimony to it. And it's the same thing when it's on the right. Now, Mark Cuban said something really dumb, by the way, from the interior of what appeared to be his private jet while he was beaming into the view and assuring everybody that Kamala Harris would be the best president for them. So it's amusing all around. Like, there are no real winners here in this situation. But I do think it is a little bit precious to defend Donald Trump saying, let's see Liz Cheney with a gun in her face. And by the way, the reason
because if Kamala or Tim Walz or Mark Cuban or whatever said that about, let's say, Tulsi Gabbard or Trump himself, there would be quite a reaction, coming from that side with that level of like, visceral, violent type rhetoric.
I mean, again, though, it's a war hawk comment. It's like, hey, put a gun in her face and see how she does in war. That's the chicken hawk point. That's, I mean, I remember saying shit like that about George W. Bush, right? Like, and I think it was fine. Anyway, look.
And
what do you think, Ryan?
I think it's not fair for people to want descriptions of war to be more sanitized. Like that, because that's basically what they're saying. They're saying it's okay to call somebody a chicken hawk. But you should leave it at chicken hawk and say they should go to war. But when you get into the grisly details of what war is, like that's a little bit too much. But that is the essence of the chicken hawk critique, that war is hell, and that nobody who's ever experienced the hell of it would think it is anything other than hell. Now, some people who've experienced it still think it's necessary to create the world that we want to live in, etc. But the idea is that it is hell. And it is grisly, and people do have guns, pointed at their face, and bullets that rip through their skulls and end their lives. And that's seeing it and being part of it changes you. So I think it's just kind of unfair to say like you can call someone a chicken hawk, but you can't like describe the grisly details of war, because that's the whole under it all is that's the whole point.
There's of course another element to this, which is that Trump himself used bone spurs to get out of serving.
Liberals used to say that. He's a draft dodger. It's true.
He's a draft dodger.
Yeah, it's true. It's a totally fine thing to say too.
Yeah,
but his own Vietnam, you guys all know.
Oh yeah, not getting STDs and
it was avoiding chlamydia. That was his Vietnam.
That's right. He served in the war against chlamydia.
Thank you for your service.
So this is Liz Cheney's response. She says, this is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death. We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant. And so, I think Democrats feel like, while they're trying to lay the fascist charge at his feet, and they're also trying to change the topic from a news cycle about whether or not Joe Biden said that Trump supporters are quote unquote garbage. I think they are happy to seize on these comments as well. And as a reminder that of some of the things that people really don't like about Donald Trump. And, I've been thinking about this hour because we've been going back and forth a little bit on this, but part of what has made Trump hold up so well in this election is that his approval rating is significantly higher than it used to be. And so he's still underwater in most polls by some amount, but not nearly where he used to be. And so Democrats' paid advertisements are by and large going after, like, it's more of like a class war message, but obviously Kamala did the ellipse speech. They amplified the comments from John Kelly saying, hey, I serve with this guy and he is a fascist. And so they feel like this very visceral invocation of violent rhetoric kind of fuels and serves to remind people of some of the elements of him that they don't like and plays into their argument about who he is ultimately.
Okay, I'll give it to them. I mean, because they've got the media on their side, basically. They are literally saying on CNN all morning, they're like, oh, he wants to put Trump or Liz Cheney in a firing squad. If I combine that with the senior figure, I will say, yeah, that's a problem. Now, again, I think it's a dishonest presentation by CNN and MSNBC based on that. But if the senior vote is correct, the numbers that are coming out right now, I mean, just anecdotally, seniors who I've spoken to, they bring up the wildest shit. You know, they'll be like, oh, did you see Trump called, veterans suckers and losers? I'm like, bro, what? Like, that's a bullshit story. But they don't want to hear it. Like, that's the type of stuff that they take in. Or the type of things that piss them off, more what I'll say, is just so different than I think a lot of the people who watch our show. So I could see this presentation by CNN and MSNBC and all of that feeding into that, Krystal, because that is specifically that is the strategy of the Harris Cheney voter. I mean, like, we see this, for example, in PA at that event. It was not an accident. Ryan, you'll know it was in Malvern, one of the wealthiest, I believe the wealthiest city, or one of the wealthiest in the mainline suburban Philadelphia area. So I could see it. And then, a lot of older voters there in that respect. It's true. Look,
I think there are decorum voters.
Absolutely.
And not just older. Yeah. I don't think just older. Yeah. I think, the suburban women vote that they're chasing very hard. Like, I think there are who, respect Liz Cheney for whatever reason, whether they should or not. As actually, I don't even think that's a question. They shouldn't. But yeah, I think there is a decorum voter out there who feels like these comments are too far, who don't want the visceral description of war, even though that should be put in our face more often, to your point, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm in the minority on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say the reason that Liz Cheney is being deployed is specifically for women voters. And so the bro code thing, you had J.D. Vance on Joe Rogan yesterday, and I think Saagar and I probably agree that he did a good job for a number of reasons, and that'll be helpful for a number of reasons, although people probably don't vote to elect vice presidents. But Liz Cheney is specifically being used by Democrats to get this very small slice of the electorate pie, which is suburban swing women voters who might be persuaded by Liz Cheney to vote for Kamala Harris. And so it's not a huge group of people, but Trump then saying, yeah, well, you see what happens if she gets blasted in the face, or you put a rifle in her face. I shouldn't misrepresent the comments, but put a gun in her face. Those people are probably already leaning towards Kamala Harris, but it's definitely not helpful because the media is going to run with it all day on CNN, and it'll just
it's not probably the closing argument of the Republican streams.
Yeah, yes. I mean, we're not going to cover JD because we're out of time, but I mean, this is the problem with having somebody who just talks a lot. Like, and it's like if you compare the appearances, I challenge people out there. Listen to Trump and JD on Rogan back to back, same interviewer, like same studio and all of that. And you tell me who has a better command of the facts, a better articulation of the case, a better cares about you, better on every single thing that people say that they like. But then also we know that Trump is the person who won the GOP primary. So that also tells us quite a bit about what those voters want from him. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I think we'll probably maybe cover on Monday. Sorry, you and I can talk more about the JD Vance interview. But I mean, he has positioned himself very well within the Republican Party, but now it all comes down to Trump, how this election goes. Does he win? Does he lose? What is the flavor of the stop the steal this time? If Trump does lose, does JD go along with it? There's still a lot of tripwires for him. But no doubt in terms of the conservative base, he has done himself a lot of favors there.
Very true. All right. That's a good tease. Ryan M., thank you for joining us, guys. This was fun.
Good time.
Yeah, like how you guys opened it by saying it was a Friday points or Points Friday, because that way you don't.
Yeah, he said Friday points.
Yeah, it's Friday points.
Are they breaking or are they countering? Nobody knows.
That's up to
the be the judge, right? We report, you decide.
Yeah, we report, you decide. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Have a good weekend, y'all. Bye.